Very good. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Here we go. So we are continuing, or hopefully concluding today, our discussion of the opening siman in Hilchot Shabbat. Let me share the screen with you. There we go. So hopefully you could see that here. Let's go back up here. And we were up to, I believe, let me do this. Sorry. I believe we were up to Dalet, if I'm not mistaken, in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Mishnah Berurah. Yeah, I don't remember covering that particular part. So we're right over here. Let me just focus in with the arrow. Good. So the Shulchan Aruch's comment here that this is being built upon is that on other days of the week one needs to be mitzamtzing, needs to try to limit the spending if possible in order to make Shabbat a little more special. And this may be less of a problem if a person's budget is not so tight, but if a person's budget is quite tight, then this is something that needs to be considered. How am I going to utilize the funds throughout the week? Kedei lechabed haShabbat, in order to honor Shabbos. So the Mishnah Berurah comments, the mizonos shel Shabbos v'Yom Tov mosifin lo. Why is that? Because when it comes to the mizonos of Shabbos and Yom Tov, I'm not going to vouch don't say, Tzlinger said this is the case, so I'm going to follow this strategy because I don't want you to get misled. That if you increase the amount you spend on Shabbos, so you get more money. Meaning, if you spend an extra little bit on Shabbos, God will find a way to repay and to repay you for having extended yourself for your Shabbos food. Ukamosha Amru Chazal, like our sages say, Kol mizonosav shel Adam ktsuvin lo me Rosh Hashanah v'ad Rosh Hashanah. The statement of Chazal is that the amount of mizonos of food is set from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. So on Rosh Hashanah, it's determined how much mizonos you will be granted by God. V'yesh lizar shelo yosif pahen pen lo kotzvu lo kol kach. Chutz mehotzos Shabbos v'Yom Tov v'hotzos banav l'Talmud Torah. She mosifin lo. You got to be careful in general not to overindulge on one day of the year, because that affects. Remember, you only have a certain pot, according to Chazal, of how much food there will be. So you have to be careful not to be, too generous with yourself on a particular day, because maybe you don't have enough in the bank. Except chutz mehotzos Shabbos the Yom Tov. But when it comes to the expenses of Shabbos and Yom Tov, and the expenses of your children learning Torah, so day school tuition, that if you increase the day school tuition, well, this will solve the tuition crisis right here, by the way. If you increase the amount that you spend on the tuition, so don't worry, God's going to find a way to give it back to you. Mosifin lo. That is not counted in the amount of money you were given from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. That there's a special spending account just for those expenses. Okay, that's quoted in the Torah. That mamar that ma'amar from Chazal is quoted by the Torah, and it's very cute. I be very careful to take this one to the bank and start to say, well, if I spend extra for Shabbos or for Talmud Torah, hey, it's kind of come back. It's going to come back around. I think that Chazal here maybe we're more trying to teach us a message that these are the kinds of things which maybe there are down the road, there are benefits to them. I think we can understand the idea of Talmud Torah and the value of Jewish education, that maybe it's not the money that's going to come back to us, but it's what we've hopefully accrued with the money, that if we're going to extend ourselves in one area, let it be Talmud Torah, let it be how we experience Shabbos. Maybe that will ultimately down the road lead us to having a better appreciation. Maybe our children have a better appreciation for the uniqueness of Shabbat and Yom Tov. Again, I would be careful to take this straight as it's written. I don't want anyone to make any mistakes with their finances. The Mishnah Berurah continues here. It says, "Lavin beribis letzorech suda Shabbos o sudas mitzvah." You could even, and this is a very surprising statement, but you can even you can even borrow on interest for what you need on to provide the Shabbos meal or any other sudas mitzvah. Okay, a wedding meal, bris milah, the meal after the bris milah. V'hainu, but where can you take that loan out on interest? The answer is hainu me'eno Yehudi. Okay, that's not a surprising statement from a non-Jew. Okay, that is what it is. It can, I believe, is a part of the world. Oh, mi Yisrael b'derech heter. This is actually not generally encouraged, but it's called as a document that's called a heter iska. That is a document that circumvents the prohibition of borrowing and lending on interest, and that's, I think, what's meant here, b'derech heter, in a way that is permissible. That you can do this. So the Aruch HaShulchan points out what's the chiddush here, what's so special about this, and he writes. Just want to find the words that he writes. Where is this? Yeah, he writes here, "V'zeh shekosav lavin beribis l'tzorech sudas Shabbos zeu al pi heter kamo mikusi," from a non-Jew, "o bishtar iska," with this particular document, and he says that this is a kula gedolahi. This is a real leniency, because again, the rabbis were not thrilled with this, even this way of doing ribis for a document that circumvents it. But he says v'haravusahu. What's the chiddush here? You can always use a heter iska technically according to the letter of the law. This document, the chiddush is that shiroi lashos came litzorach mitzvah leman hamitzvah. Here, this would be encouraged by the rabbis to do this in order that people are able to have a proper Shabbos meal. That's the difference here. Instead of it being frowned upon, here this would be encouraged in order to provide the Shabbos meal. Okay, that's by way of that's what we wanted to cover today with Rabbis, with interest. Im shalchu lo davar, back to the Mishnah Berurah. Im shalchu lo davar machal sheyochlenu b'Shabbos lo yochlenu b'chol. Let's say you have generous people in the community who understand somebody's got a certain need, and they send the person, maybe even anonymously, they send the person a Shabbos package of food, and they receive it on, let's say, Wednesday or Thursday. So you're not supposed to eat that which was set aside for Shabbos on the weekdays. Lo yochlenu. You're not supposed to eat it. B'chol kein kosav v'sefer Chasidim. This is what it says in the Sefer Chasidim. Okay, that was a book that was a sefer that was written in Ashkenazi, the medieval Ashkenazi period. A lot of interesting halacha to learn in Sefer Hasidim. That's the source of the idea that you're not supposed to marry a woman who has the same name as your mother. Interesting halachot that have no source in the Gemara, so you have to always take what it says in Sefer Hasidim with a grain of salt. V'ayin lekaman b'mitzvah taf reish saridal siv beis. Later on in Hilchos in Orach Chaim, in the laws of Purim, it says the Das HaShulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch's opinion is Sham the ha'ani yachol l'shanos b'migbas Purim. Let's say a person receives matanos levyonim on Purim, and it's in the form. And the idea is that you're supposed to use that money for your seuda on Purim. You get the money, the day in the morning of Purim. You go to the market, you get something nice to make yourself a meal in the afternoon. So the halacha though is that a poor person who receives the Purim money can switch it from being used, can change it from being used on Purim to whatever Lamashi Yirtze, to whatever they want. After the gavuhu letzorech Purim, even though it was collected with Purim in mind, that it should be used on Purim, achein gam sham. So really, you can change it to be used for anything. Achein gam sham yesh machmirim bazeh. There are some, of course, who believe in that discussion, as you can see in the tour over there, that you should not be able to switch the money. If it was designated and given with the idea that it was supposed to be used on Purim, then the people who are receiving it must use it on Purim. But that's not the halacha that emerges from that discussion. The opinion of the Shulchan Aruch is that it can be used for other things as well. So if it's for some reason a greater need for something else, then they can use it for the something else. So what we learn from here in our situation, I think that's what he's trying to explain here, is that technically maybe you could use it. Even though they sent it to you for Shabbos, you could technically use it on weekdays. Though here there may be, again, a special mitzvah to then save it for Shabbos. Meaning that might be this poor person's fulfillment of the mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos. Okay. Fine. Now we continue on to the last comment of the Mishnah Berurah before the Ramah's comments pick up. We talked about that with the Takana from Ezra. Ezra, the scribe who was a big part of the beginnings of the Second Temple period. He apparently made a Takana, says in Bava Kama, to do laundry on Thursday because of Kavod Shabbos. Sounds like it's a fulfillment of the mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos by doing laundry on Thursday. Who knew you could fulfill mitzvahs related to Shabbos on Thursday? But that is the idea here. Why? What is this Takana all about? So there are really two ways you could view the Takana. So one way, which is initially presented here, Hainu kedei sheyu levanim l'Shabbos. That this way you would wear your nice white clothing for Shabbos. It would be washed and it would be laundered on Thursday, and it would be ready to be worn on Friday night. So aval lo be'erev Shabbos. Why can't you walk into Shabbos with clean clothing? I wash on Friday morning. What are you making me such a big? What are you making it so difficult for me? But not supposed to do it on Erev Shabbos. Kedei sheyu penuyim hisasek b'tzarchei Shabbos. The reason you're not supposed to do laundry on Friday, it's no prohibition per se, because there's a Isser Malacha on Friday. It's that this way I won't be dealing with the laundry, and I am free to do other things to help me prepare for the necessities of Shabbos. Probably mostly the cooking, and maybe this is related to also bathing oneself, setting the table, making it look nice. This way the laundry will be done on Thursday. Otherwise it will take too much of my attention on Friday. So part of it, there are two elements here. One is not to be overly busy on Friday so I can do other things. The other reason is that I'm supposed to wear nice clothing on Shabbos. Now, if it was just simply about wearing nice clothing on Shabbos, I could do it on Friday. But it also has this element of being free to do other preparations on Friday. You could say, well, Rabbi, I have other clean clothing I could wear for Shabbos. I've, fine, I won't do it on Thursday, and I don't do it on Friday either. And okay, I have it's nice enough. I wore whatever it is last week. The same chaluk means like cloak. I wore it last week. It's good enough. And the answer is no. You can't wear it multiple weeks because Ezra said you're supposed to come into Shabbos looking your best. And that means you need to wash your chaluk. You need to wash your cloak that you're going to go out on Shabbos to the shul. And even if you're not going to shul, just inside your own home, in order to tell you that you do not violate the Takana of Ezra. Ezra wanted us, dafka, to wash the laundry on Thursday so that we look nice on Shabbos. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. There are a couple of more modern day questions that emerge from this because they didn't have as much. It's clear that they didn't have as much in their closets as we do.
You also didn't have clothes dryers, so you had to do it on Thursday. No, really, you're not going to wear wet clothes Friday night.
Correct. Yes,
you dry overnight.
You're absolutely right. They did not have. The ability to get it done as quickly as we do. So, in my edition of the Mishnah Berurah, the Dirshu edition of the Mishnah Berurah, which is a relatively new edition, so they have a lot of comments on the side from the 20th century poskim who would have dealt with this question because the idea of having a dryer is relatively new. It's not that you'll be hang drying it. So yes. So. Few items to talk about. Some say that if you have a mechunat kvisa, you have a washing machine to do the laundry on Friday. Kimat, everybody thinks if you only have a washing machine without a dryer, that then yes, it will be prohibited on Friday to wash the laundry. But they write here. Hold on. Just a quote from the Dirshu.
The hint of that means you're going to have to press jeans shirts on Friday.
Never press shirts. Pick it up from the cleaners on Friday.
There you go. Right. Where is this? I'm just trying to find the paragraph here. They talk about the dryer.
You have to wash on Friday to get clean clothes. It implies that you wore it last week. If you don't have to wash on Friday and it's already clean, it implies you didn't wear it last week, which would be the opposite of meeting the Takana of Ezra.
Yeah, so it's clear here from the postskim that if nowadays you have another suit, you have another something, or even right, that when we talk about washing things, that's with things that get dirty frequently. But a suit, or if you have a nice dress shirt and you kept it clean from last week, then that's not what we're talking about. That's not what Ezra was talking about. He was talking about if it, the making sure the other garments that you wear, whether it's undergarments or it's I can't remember if it was pants or shirt. Maybe I'm mixing it up, but that then it's not here. He writes here, "V'davka begadim hasmuchim leguf." It's with your shirt or things that are literally on your body, where they get a little soiled, they get a little ruined, a little dirty. And those you wear anything you would wear one time and wash, then you need to make sure that you're washing those on Thursday. A suit jacket, for example, things that you wear outerwear. Nissim Karlitz writes, you don't need to launder those on Thursday. They should just make sure they're clean and that they are especially set aside for Shabbos. If you've been wearing them the whole week, then it loses a little maybe its luster also as being a special garment to wear on Shabbos. Now, here's the point I wanted to make about the dryer. The She'elos Uchuvos or Letzion. I'm sorry, I didn't look up who wrote that. He writes, if you have a washer and a dryer, he says that it is okay to wash the laundry on Friday. Now, others like Rabbi Elyashiv was not keen on this. He understood the svar, but he said that's the minhag. The old time minhag was to wash on Thursdays when they had a hang dry. So, we should stick with the minhag. But Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, while also not opposed in theory to the idea of washing your clothing on Friday, because of course you could dry it quickly and so that it's ready for Shabbos, he did say, and I think he's got the point here. He says, "Kevan shebizmanenu ein regilus lechabes letzorach shimush be'osel hayom." Since when we wash laundry today, we don't always wash the laundry for today. We wash the laundry because of the way that we have clothing for the next day to wear it or the day after that. If you're washing on Friday afternoon, perhaps people will start washing their clothing on Erev Shabbos so that they have what to wear on Sunday for the next week or for Monday the next work week. And that would be problematic, he thinks, because you're supposed to be focusing on Shabbos preparations on Friday. And this would be not in the spirit, at least, of the Takana of Ezra. All right, but I would say according to the letter of the law, yes, if you need laundry to be done on Friday because you have something that you need to wear on Shabbos, you want to wear on Shabbos, Maker Hadin, I think it's fine. You have upon whom to rely on. Though again, if you're doing the laundry just simply so that you can have laundry ready for Monday, but it's going to cause you to have that, I don't know, somehow every week it is anyways, but you're going to end up feel like you have wet hair as Shabbos is starting, and you're like, you have one leg in your pants and the other one is still, you're trying to figure out how to put it in because you're such a tumult to how to get ready to get to shul or to get to lighting the candles. Maybe doing the laundry for Monday could wait until Saturday night, so that you don't walk into Shabbos with one pant leg.
I think a lot depends on what time of year it is. Like
correct. Certainly, this time of the year, it's it's stressful to do any kind of laundry on Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
In the summer, it's not that much of a problem.
Yeah, no, 100%. Actually, they make that distinction with Thursday night. Again, assuming that you thought there was a problem with laundering on Friday, even with all of our machines that we have, many are makil. Many of these poskim who are machmir on Friday are makil in the summertime. In the winter time, to say it's okay to launder on Thursday night, even though technically it's Yom HaShishi in the halachic sense. They say that's okay. There's still plenty of time. But in the summer on Thursday night, they're not so keen on that. Anyways. Yeah. All right. Now let's go to the Ramah.
Rav, can I ask?
Yes, Simeon, please go ahead.
In the Mishnah Brura on Tet Zion, he says, "Sheyihu levanim l'Shabbos."
Yes.
Levanim has the same shorish as libun, meaning to wash, but levanim also means white. And there is a notion afoot of people insisting that the tablecloth for Shabbos should be white. Could you comment, please?
The idea that a tablecloth should be white is something we will see when we get to the siman about how to set your table for Friday night.
Okay.
But there is this idea of white is represented. I mean, we still do see this today, by the way. Look, the color that a bride wears at a wedding, and that is often seen as a dress. The dressiest of dress shirts, maybe. Okay, hold on. I think I was just muted there for a second. For those who are in the shul who I see are setting up the live feed of Shacharis, just hang on. We have still about 13 minutes until Shacharis. All right, okay. Thanks. Okay, so sorry, what was I just saying? I got distracted by that. Oh, Levanim, right. So the idea of white being a dignified look is, I think, still something that we have today. And so I think that idea of a white tablecloth, but I do think that if you do have a white tablecloth, well, I won't tell anybody, if you don't use a white tablecloth, so that I don't want to ruin anyone's shidduch. I think that it's okay if it's not exactly white. I think that there's a spirit of what it means to have a white tablecloth, a white shirt, a white this. It means a really nice looking, item of clothing, presumably even, by the way, free of stains, to the extent that could be possible. So we'll talk more about that tablecloth when we get there, and it's probably not far down the line after the once we, as we're preparing for Shabbos in the order of the Simanim. Once we get to Friday night, we'll talk about what the table is supposed to look like. Okay, the Ramah writes here, Nohagin lalush. We are accustomed to knead dough, kedei shir challah, to the amount that would be required to take challah, the mitzvah to be mafresh challah, to separate a certain part of the dough, a certain percentage of the dough, a little bit. Doesn't, when it comes to challah, there's really no, there's no, I forget it. It's one in, I'm blanking right now what the shir challah we usually do is 1 in 48 or something like that. It's a very small, I'm forgetting now. It's a very small number, percentage of what should be of the dough. But we're supposed to do this kadei shir lasos, kadei shir challah babayis laasos mahehem lechamim livtzo aleim b'Shabbos v'yontiv. So here, what we see is there's a minhag recorded in the Mordechai, brought here by the Ramah, to knead your own dough and to bake your own challah, so that you'll break those loaves of bread on Shabbos and Yom Tov. You'll use those to bake to make hamotzi. There's this minhag to do it yourself. V'hu mikavod Shabbos v'Yom Tov, and when you do that, when you bake your own challah, you're actually fulfilling the mitzvah of kavod Shabbos by baking your own challah, or if it's Yom Tov, kavod Yom Tov, or showing proper respect and honor to Yom Tov, and you're not supposed to change that minhag. If that's your minhag, you should make challah. You should be encouraged to make challah. It's a special mitzvah because you're actually doing the preparations yourself. You're not just going to the bakery and picking up from there. You prepared Shabbos. There's something about you making it that is a special fulfillment in the preparation of Shabbos. I would say that probably the same goes for I guess takeout food. Maybe there's a special inyan of making the food yourself, is a special extra mitzvah of kavod Shabbos. Though I will add that if one does not have the time, it is perfectly fine, and maybe it's also fulfillment of kavod Shabbos. So you don't walk into Shabbos in an upheaval, and that you are not overly stressed. Sometimes it's actually good to get some takeout food for Shabbos, but there is definitely a long-standing minhag when it comes to challah to bake your own challah. If you do that, that's great. If not, it's a minhag, and start taking classes on how to make challah. Look, the Rama writes here, Kadei shir challah. It's a vav in the Mishnah Berurah. He says, Hainu milvad shehalisha v'ha'afiyah hu michlal kavod Shabbos v'Yom Tov. Aside from the fact that the kneading and the baking of the challah and the taking of the mitzvah of challah, of actually removing the dough, to do the mitzvah of challah, fulfills the mitzvah of kavod Shabbos and kavod Yom Tov, kamosh mitzayim levasof, as the Rama writes at the end. Od yesh bazeh tam. Ready? Here comes some Kabbalah coming at you. There's another reason. In order to, sorry, this is not the Kabbalah part. There's another mitzvah, which is kedei lekayim mitzvah challah. You want to fulfill the mitzvah of challah, but now why do you want to fulfill the mitzvah of challah, of separating the dough? Here comes the Zohar. Lefi she'ibda es adam harishon shaya chalaso shel olam shenivra be'erev Shabbos. And now here is a little bit of, this is aimed, I think, at the women, by the way, particularly. And by the way, the Mishnah in Shabbos does say that a woman suffers terrible things in childbirth if she doesn't fulfill the mitzvah of Shabbos candles, challah, and a proper fulfillment in the laws of nida. So chametza of challah is oftentimes aimed at the woman, though there is no reason a man can't bake challah. And if you do, you should be mafresh challah. Sorry, if you bake bread, and man can bake bread, and if it's the proper amount of dough that's been used, you should be mafresh challah. It's not like only women can be mafreshes the challah. So why do this on Friday going into Shabbos? In order to fulfill challah, because Adam Harishon, who was decreed to be able to, I guess, die on Friday, the first day that he was created, the sin happened with the fruit of the Eitz Hadas. Chava gave him to eat from the Eitz Hadas. God threw them out of Gan Eden, and it seems that this is the punishment was, he was, as it were, lost from the world, and he was considered Chalaso Shel Olam, the distinguished, separated one of the world. I guess distinguished in the sense that he was different than all the animals and all other creations. And this was the day that he was lost. I guess it was Friday, so I guess baking the challah on Friday for Shabbos is a nice way to do a takana, a fixing of this. I guess particularly this in the original, this is clearly aimed at women because Chava was the one who handed him the fruit and helped him in sinning. So in order to fix that mistake, they're supposed to bake challah, probably mafresh challah, bake the bread to be mafresh challah because Adam was the challah of his world at the time. So you're trying to replace the challah that was destroyed. Whatever, you'll figure that out. You'll make sense of that. And he was crepe bearer of Shabbos, right? V'ayin v'achronim da'afilu hanogen lechol pas palter shel eino Yehudi b'chol. Even though we're permitted to go to the bakery, and as long as the other ingredients are kosher, you can buy bread from a non-Jewish baker. Which is, by the way, why most of our bread today is, you go to the grocery store, not the bakery. If you go to the grocery store, there's a chafkei, there's an OU, there's a something. It's not pas Yisrael, but it's kosher. All the ingredients are kosher, and there's no gzeira of pas akum because I don't know the baker. He doesn't know me. So there's no fear here that our daughter or his daughter and my son are going to get married. That was the whole fear of bishul akum, that there'll be chasnus, there'll be intermarriage. So you don't have that with the bread of a baker. Mikol makom b'Shabbos v'Yontiv nochon lizar shelo lechol ki'im b'pas Yisrael mipnei kavod Shabbos v'Yontiv. There is a special Indian to be careful by eating with regards to the meals of Shabbos to have pas Yisrael. I think most people in general are careful for this because you usually will get your challah specially shaped and it's challah bread, and that usually is a pas Yisrael, and that's the ideal. Again, if you don't have though, upashudim hu anus she'ein lo al ma lekadesh ki im al pas she'enam Yehudim kemo shematzoy la'anshe chayil ha'ivriim yochol lekadesh, which is very interesting. He writes here, obviously, if you don't have, you can't get your hands on pas Yisrael, or you're not baking it yourself. Then, of course, you can make, let's say you don't have wine even, you can still even make kiddush on pas akum, on bread that was baked by the baker. As we see, a lot of soldiers, Jewish soldiers, had to do this on Friday night and Shabbos day. They got their bread from their platoon, whatever, from the kitchen in their army station, and they would make kiddush on that, because they didn't have grape juice. So they took their bread and they made kiddush over the bread, which you're allowed to do if you don't have wine. But you could even make it over pas palter. It was made by the baker. They're not making pas Yisrael bread in the army. So it's fine. You can make kiddush on it. You could have that as your to make hamotzi. It's ideal to have pas Yisrael. It's a nice Indian that a Jew prepared it for Shabbos, and so it has an element of kavod Shabbos to that challah. I guess that's what they're going for. Let's just finish up here. The Ramah finishes up and says, "Yeshikos v'shemiktzas mekomos nagu lechol mulyosa shekorin pashtida belil Shabbos zecher leman she'emachusa lamala lamata." And he just quotes here from the Maria, "V'lo ra'isi lachush lazim." That there are some places that have the custom to eat mulyosa, which is also pashtido, which is basically bread with a pocket in it. As the Aruch HaShulchan explains, we're talking here about crepe. And pashtida is though something you could put meat inside, you could put cheese inside, you could put vegetables, whatever inside. But here the Aruch HaShulchan says we're talking about crepe for Shabbos, having crepe. And why was this a customary food? Because that's like the mun. The mun was covered on the bottom and on the top by a layer. Underneath, on top it had the dew, and underneath it was it was covered from the bottom as well. I guess by the ground, so it was kind of all covered. And the Rama said, we don't eat crepe here. Apparently we don't. That wasn't the minhag, where he was. The Mishnah Berurah writes here that the man was covered from the top and from the bottom, betal, in dew. It was so special, dew on the top and dew on the bottom. And this food has meat inside, and it's covered by dough on the top and on the bottom. And that's where the whole Indian of eating crepe comes from, because it's zecher laman. You never knew that, huh? That's the traditional food comes from. And the Mishnah Berurah says, where we live, we eat crepe. So if you eat crepe, understand where it comes from on Shabbos. It's zecher laman, and you should have it in mind when you're eating when you're eating it on Shabbos. I think the Aruch HaShulchan said that. This was also customary in their area. Fine, and he didn't say anything else that was important to add here. So we'll end now. The davening is going to start in 2 minutes. I actually have to get over there as well, and.